Welcome back to Together We Can's monthly action items. My name is Rob Crane. I'm a personal injury attorney in Dallas, and along with my good friend Pastor Richie Butler, we're the co-founders of Together We Can. This month of May, we have a couple of celebrations that we want to recognize. Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is in May, and last year we highlighted that celebration in our Together We Can items, and we provided a link this month to last year's elements so that you can go back and review those, or if it's your first time to have a look at those, to be able to celebrate that rich history and the wonderful contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to American life and history. This year, we're going to focus on the other celebration of May, and that is Jewish American Heritage Month. And I want to go into this discussion, first of all, with saying this exercise, as we note in our action item instructions, is not to agree, but to listen and to hear other people's perspectives. And I say that because we talk about race each month. We are now talking about religion, although with the Jewish experience throughout history, there is element of racism as well. But we are adding now religion into a discussion about race, and so we're gonna ride all the rails that you're not supposed to ride. And in doing so, I want to state up front my lack of expertise to really talk about these things. I'm raising the questions so that I first and foremost can learn more. This has been a month of great learning for me and great listening for me, and I'll go to that in a second. But we're raising an issue of hate is what we're really talking about here, and whether it is directed to Jewish people, whether it is Muslim people, Christian people, or people of any other religion in the world, or people of different ethnicity, whether we're talking about African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, we are talking about the same concepts this month, even though we're focused on the Jewish experience, the same concepts that apply to the hate of all these groups. And that's really what we're trying to get at here through focusing on this unbelievable history that the Jewish people have experienced throughout time. And that is that, hate, as we're going to hear from one of our speakers, really begins with the inability of a group to make space for difference. And whatever group it is that is in the majority or is the most populous, and there is a group with a difference, most times in our history, hate and terrible consequences arise from the beginning of the inability of a group to make space for that difference. As Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who we hear from this month, says, every society driven by hate begins by seeking to destroy its enemies and ends by destroying itself. And taking that hate into action is where the downfall of any community, any society, leads itself. So that is where we're going with this. We're not getting into any political controversies. We're not getting into any global fights. What we are really wanting to highlight this month is the remarkable accomplishments of so many Jewish Americans who only make up 2.5% of the American population, yet their contributions far exceed 2.5% of the contributions to American life and history and society. So we'll briefly touch on those contributions with our first entry, and then we're going to look in depth at the history of anti-Semitism, and the just horrific history of atrocities that the Jewish people have experienced, and bring it to modern times and into that discussion we were alluding to as to how this hate can be really paralleled with hate toward other groups as well. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who I mentioned, We've highlighted some of his comments before. He is a wonderful speaker and thinker. We unfortunately lost him in 2020 to cancer, but he was chief rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth and a leader in the United Kingdom for so many years. He's not a perfect human being, like none of us are. And anytime somebody is speaking on these kinds of subjects, criticism will follow. But I believe in watching and listening to so many of his contributions that his heart certainly is in the right place, and his contributions are something we all need to take note of. One thing I did this month that I would encourage all of you to do is I called a Jewish friend of mine and asked him about anti-Semitism and his experience. And from that discussion, it opened my eyes up to how different he experienced anti-Semitism in America based on where he was at different points in his life. He was raised in the South, yet spent time in the North, and he had different experiences based on where he was at those times. And so from the enlightenment that I received from that conversation, I added the article Jewish Experience, South versus North, that I found, which just provides really just an education of perspectives, and it doesn't give any answers. But my point being is that, we need to appreciate that there are different experiences that Jewish people face in different parts of our country. And, it's something that I need to be more aware of and more knowledgeable of. But there are so many lessons, as I said, that transfer from this topic to so many of the other topics we cover. And I want to make sure that we are inclusive in this analysis of hate and its application to any group that we may talk about. So I hope that you get as much out of this month's action items as I have. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot to ruminate over. And hopefully you find something here that causes you to reach out to your Jewish brothers and sisters and ask them about their experiences. And for our Jewish brothers and sisters listening, we celebrate your contributions this month and the wonderful contributions of the Jewish people to America. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you back next month.